From time to time, a question will come up about mixing and matching content from different sources on a single page. Typically, most often, this is a question like, can I display my Kartra page content on my WordPress site while still keeping my WordPress navigation? Or sometimes it's about sidebars or some other element. On a less frequent basis, the question also sometimes arises, can I use a WordPress plugin on my Kartra site? Or another kind of related question would be, can I use a client's legacy content from Wix or Squarespace or something like that on a Kartra site? And historically, the answers have been to the first question, the answer is yes, if there's a Kartra embed code available for it, which is the case for things like forms, checkouts, videos, and help desks. But if there's no embed code for it, then generally the answer is no. Embedded Kartra pages take over the entire window because of the limitations of the iframe technique that's used to display them on a WordPress website, and I'll go over that in a minute. And number two, no, because Kartra doesn't run WordPress plugins or doesn't have a way to incorporate Wix or Squarespace content. The bottom line is, if an embed code isn't available, then an iframe is what you have to use to embed the content. And in fact, embed codes are often implemented using iframe technology as the way that the content gets included. Not always, but frequently. And indeed, when embedding Kartra page builder pages, iframes are what get used to make the content appear within a WordPress site. The main problem with iframes is that unfortunately the HTML standard doesn't provide any simple standard built-in way to size iframes based on the content. And as a result, the iframes are typically sized using either a fixed size or based either directly or indirectly on the window size. So it might be based on the window size or a column size, which is typically a function of window size. So for example, if I look at a standard iframe like the ones in this window, these iframes have a fixed height, and then they're set up to use the width of the content column on this Kartra page. This is a Kartra page here. So the width of the iframe will vary with the width of the column, but the height is just fixed. And because the height of the iframes are not sufficient for the content that's inside them, each iframe has a scroll bar to scroll the content of the child page that's being displayed within the iframe. I'm using the terminology that the outer frame, or the page containing the framed content, is the parent frame, and these are child pages within this parent page. So unless the content is small enough to fit within the iframe, a scroll bar appears to scroll the child page content within the frame. It's not all that attractive. There's usually a border surrounding the content, and it certainly doesn't give the impression of seamless integration. So in case you're wondering how a Kartra page embedded in a WordPress site works, it's a case of the iframe being sized based on the size of the window. And in fact, what happens is the iframe is sized to use the entire window space from top to bottom and left to right. And because the height of the iframe in that case is exactly the height of the window, though the parent page scroll bar doesn't need to appear, and because the iframe is consuming the entire width, if the scroll bar for the iframe needs to appear because of the child content, it actually will appear over here where the parent window scroll bar will be. So it looks like you're scrolling the parent window, but what you're doing is you're actually scrolling a full screen version of this child page content. So what you're scrolling actually isn't this scroll bar, but the iframe content scroll bar. So what is now available is a Smart Iframe technology from kpowertools.com, which creates new possibilities by using scripts to communicate the size of the child pages to the parent pages, allowing them to eliminate this scroll bar. And that looks like this. I have an example here. Just for demonstration purposes, I have navigation in the child pages showing. Normally you wouldn't have multiple sets of navigation for each part of the page showing within one page. You'd just choose navigation from one source. But as part of this demonstration, I wanted to show that navigation from child frames can affect the parent frame. So for example, this parent frame can be controlled by links from within the child frame. So for example, if I click on this link, it's replacing the whole parent window as well as the child frame. And that works both for child Kartra content. It can be made to work for child WordPress content or any other content. So here I'm jumping out of the frame from a WordPress source to a WordPress page. So a couple of different examples of contained content here. So in this case, I have a Kartra parent page and I have both Kartra child page. So you can see what was chopped off and scrolling in this frame with a standard frame is now the child frame is set to be exactly the height of the content. So I've eliminated the scroll bar to scroll through the content, and the native parent window scroll bar is seamlessly scrolling through the content. So here's from here down to here is the child frame, the child iframe for the Kartra content, and then I have another child iframe for my WordPress page. So now I'm showing a WordPress page within a Kartra page, and an example of how this can be used to show WordPress plugin content. I've got two demonstration plugins set up on this WordPress page. I've got one that shows posts from a Facebook group, and another one that shows YouTube videos from my YouTube channel. So these are both being generated by plugins on the WordPress site, yet I'm displaying them within a Kartra page. Smart iframes track height changes dynamically. So if the content changes, for example, responsively, it's not a problem. It will keep up with that. So for example, I've changed from 4 columns across to 2 columns across, and it's adjusted the height. And then if I go to 1 column, it's still adjusting the height. And then if I go back to 4 columns, then it's adjusted the height back up. And if a user, for example, opens or changes accordion content, it'll follow that as well. Smart iframe technology is platform agnostic and can be used in any combination of platforms where you have custom HTML access to both the child and parent pages. It's available now on kpowertools.com in 2 versions. One is a standalone version, and the other is a WordPress version which includes all the standalone features plus a WordPress plugin offering some additional WordPress features for WordPress users.